Hello and welcome to a quick tour to show you how EOR software can increase and streamline compliance within your organisation. We won't cover every feature within this demonstration, but you should get a good overview of EOR. Firstly, log in to EOR and we will initially take a look at the personnel area. This gives you a list of the employees and self-employed individuals within your company. We can add an employee by clicking on the plus button top right of the screen. We can then fill in the details of the new employee. We can assign the employee to the depot that he works from. We can then assign his employment type and job title. If the employee requires access to EOR, we can assign him a privilege set. We can also link the employee to their training folder in Google Drive, OneDrive or Dropbox, but we won't cover that here. We will add a profile picture for the employee. And now we'll have a go at adding a training qualification for John. We'll add the main title of the qualification, followed by any modules underneath that main qualification. The date that the module was issued, along with how long it's valid for. This automatically calculates the expiry date. Now we can drag and drop a copy of the certificate. We'll quickly add one more risk assessment training certificate. Back on the main menu, we can see that John has been added to the personnel list. If required, we can search the personnel list to find who we're looking for. If we want to print a training report, we simply select the person's name from the list and click the print button. This saves a PDF to our desktop. Back on the main menu, we can now view all of the training qualifications held within the company by clicking on the Personnel Qualifications button. The training certificates can either be organised in order of days until expiry, or they can be organised in alphabetical order. We can also search for different types of qualification. The job section can be used to track health and safety jobs and tasks. Here we have a task list that has been set up for Mark Taylor. Under Mark's general tasks, we can see that he has one subtask, which is to erect signage at the Felixstowe depot. Maybe a meeting has taken place which has identified that another task needs carrying out, so we'll add here another task for Mark to purchase podium steps to assist with container sheeting. We'll add a few more details to the task, including its due date, type, topic, and a brief description of the task. We can then email the task to Mark. And we can see here that the new job has been added to Mark's list. Once the job has been completed, Mark can then click into the job, fill in the date completed, and a short note to say how the job was carried out. That task is automatically taken off of Mark's to-do list. We can see both incomplete and complete jobs, which is useful should we have a visit from a compliance organisation so that we can prove to them what we are planning to do and what we have achieved in the past. Risk assessments can be produced and stored within EOR. Here we have a list of our generic risk assessments. When adding a new risk assessment, we can either select it from the EOR library, or we can produce a risk assessment from scratch. Here we can see the EOR library. Risk assessments can also be added very easily from scratch. Hazards and controls can then be added to the risk assessment. The significance ratings before and after control, and then the controls to minimise the risk from the hazard. If we wanted to print the risk assessment, we simply click the print button and it saves the PDF to our desktop. We can add sequence of operations, also known as operating procedures or method statements. And we can add cosh assessments for the chemicals that we use. The Files and Folders area can be used to link to our Dropbox, Google Drive or OneDrive to ensure that our documentation remains in date. We can see here that our Policies folder has 196 days until it's due for review. If we open our Policies folder, we can then directly access the Dropbox, Google Drive or OneDrive where the policies are stored. We could add other documents into here, such as fire risk assessments for the different depots around the country to ensure that we know when they're due for review. We'll now take a quick look at assets. This is where we can store everything that the company owns and any compliance paperwork that needs to go along with it. Here we'll take a look at a strop that we added earlier. The strop has a category, type and internal ID and has been assigned to the Felixstowe depot. We can also assign the strop to the person who looks after it on a day-to-day basis. An asset can also be assigned to another asset. For example, a strop can be put inside a lorry. If this was a power tool, we could assign its hand-arm vibration rating and its noise rating. QR codes can be printed for assets, which allows easy scanning and access to the compliance information. More information can be found about this in the quick scan video. We now need to link any relevant expirables to the asset. This is a strop, so it needs a 6-monthly Lola. If it was a power tool, it may need a 3-monthly PAT test. A car may need a 12-monthly MOT. Here we can see the date that the Lola was carried out, how long the Lola is valid for, the date of expiry of the Lola, and how many days until that expiry occurs. If we want to open the Lola certificate, we click on the Open button and that will take us to our Dropbox where the Lola certificate is stored. It should also be mentioned that EOR can be used to track the location of assets. We will now very quickly add a fire alarm control panel for the Felixstowe depot. We'll assign it to Felixstowe. We'll assign Mark as its guardian. And we'll now assign the expirables that relate to the fire alarm panel as a 6-monthly service by an outside party, a 6-monthly fire evacuation drill, and a test every 7 days. Here we can see the expirables have been added and need dates assigning to them. We'll drag and drop a picture of the fire alarm panel. At the bottom of the screen, we can see a list of the expirables in order of expiry date. This lorry, for example, has its MOT due in 76 days. The Strop's Lola certificate is showing as out of date. Using the expirables button on the main menu, we can update the due dates of the expirables. We'll update some due dates to do with the fire alarm panel. If we want to add the date that the fire evacuation drill was carried out at Felixstowe, we firstly select the date that it was carried out. We then need to link the fire evacuation drill to this date. We know that Mark is the personnel guardian for the fire alarm panel, so we select his name. We then select the fire evacuation drill expirable. When we click Update Selected, the expiry date of the fire evacuation drill will automatically be updated to 6 months' time. We can then use the green button to open our Dropbox and drag and drop the fire evacuation drill record into the relevant folder. We could then use the same process to update the expiry date of the Lola certificate belonging to the strop. Select the date that it was carried out and then link the strop Lola to this expirable. You can see that the expiry date has now been updated. Again, open up the Dropbox and drop in the Lola certificate. If we return to the Assets area, we can see that the expiry dates have now been updated. You can search the list of expirables by type. For example, here we can see the Lola certificates. And that completes a very quick tour of some of the features of EOR, showing you how compliance within your organisation can be streamlined, leaving you in an audit-ready state. For more information, please visit www.eor.app.